my dear colleagues. Even though I have no opportunity to work with you, I think all teachers all over the world must be the colleague of a teacher who likes to get to be known as a teacher. After the retirement from the Public Service Commission as the chairman, then a group of journalists asked a very specific question. You have been this, you have been that, and to whom you would like to be known. Then I said that all these positions are former. When Swamiji introduced me, he said that I am the former Vice Chancellor. Again, he said that the former chairman. But as far as a teacher is concerned, there is no retirement because nobody would say that he is my former teacher, but he is my teacher. So I would like to be known as a teacher. And when Shivan Swami approached me to talk on this subject, what should be the topic which you would like to interact with the teachers of this esteemed university? Then I told him that I would like to talk on teaching. Because since we are living in an era of cybernetics, where artificial intelligence can substitute human beings and human intelligence, so at least some of them think that teachers can be replaced by the artificial intelligent teachers, and they would be having more information than the human brain. That is what they think. But I do differ with such opinion because of so many reasons, which I would like to explain in this session. So, teaching is an important topic that has been accepted by University Grants Commission. What is meant by teaching according to University Grants Commission? When this concept was formulated, I happened to be there as one of the members of that committee. So, the first and the most important duty of a teacher is knowledge generation. That is the first thing. That means, whatever be the subject you have to teach, you must be able to generate knowledge in that particular subject. That knowledge generation process. So a teacher is one who is expected to go by the dictations given by the former masters, but he is expected to create his own visions, and he must be able to generate unique systems of knowledge to his students. So that is the first thing. The second aspect is that it should be communicated in an easy manner. And I would say that a teacher is basically a communicator. Whatever be the amount of books you have read and the amount of knowledge you keep in your brain, that becomes immaterial if you are not able to communicate what you have learned to your students. And teacher is no doubt a communicator. So that is the delivery of the knowledge, that is a second aspect. Then you have to conduct the examination, evaluation of students, etc., which are the part of the routine work. This is the first session. Then you have to move to the second, that means the generation of knowledge. The generation of knowledge is to be done by research. That's how it is connected. UGC tried to connect the teaching with research in the sense that a teacher is expected to generate knowledge for his students, and such a generation of knowledge is possible only if you are able to do research. Research is a very important term, means research should be a contextual activity. It should never be an abstract activity. For example, that how many Mathais are there in Kottayam? Of course, it can be a topic for research, especially for a social science student. And definitely he can follow the empirical method, he can conduct the sample study, and he can locate the geographical area. Then he can say that, yes, based on this study, I do predict that there are 10,000 Mathais residing in Kottayam. But there is no use of such a knowledge because it has nothing to do with the context in which you live. The contextual means the knowledge that has been generated by the previous masters must be connected to the present and expecting to go to the future. This is the part of the research. The research does not mean that do something or make a comparison how it can be compared to this and that and how is it possible. Then you must be able to produce a PhD thesis, but that would remain only as a thesis without having any use. And today I have read a news item in the Malayalam paper that Amrita has been selected as the number one in impact study matters in care. I think I am correct. Yes, in India. It is the number one university. So you, the academics of the number one university, must have the responsibility to generate more and more knowledge systems in the area in which you are working. So that is related to the research. Research must be a contextual activity. Then the third point is that there must be planning. By planning, it means that the present is to be connected to the future. This is the present. And how it would be able to be communicated to the future generations, how the future generations can make use of the systems which you have generated. This is what is meant by planning. And finally, the fourth one is extension. Extension means to extend the width and depth of knowledge to the area. And there must be people who are residing in that area, they are incapable to access with the university. So the products of the university is to be communicated to those who are not able to enroll here as a student. This is what is meant by extension. So this is the teaching, that is what the University Grants Commission envisages when it awarded the UGC scale and all other facilities to the teachers. Then I would like to concentrate on the area of communication, because there is a story related with a very great philosopher named Hegel. He was a great philosopher, but unfortunately he was a very poor teacher, because nobody could understand what exactly he was telling. He was simply murmuring in before his student, and he was least concerned of the communication part of his philosophy. So the students were not able to understand what he expected to be understood by the students. So a teacher should not be like that. And whenever you want to take the example for an internationally renowned communicator, who is an internationally renowned communicator? In my view, it is none other than the Sri Krishna, especially in the Mahabharata and more specifically in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Because he got a very, very mediocre student like Arjuna, and he was expected to teach a very complicated and subtle philosophy like Advaita. And the moment I could realize that Arjuna was able to grasp it, then I took a very bold decision that I also can understand what Advaita is, because I have never seen such a mediocre student like Arjuna who happened to be the student of Advaita. Then I told my professor that I think that I may also be able to understand Advaita, because if we go through the Gita and first he raises a question, and Krishna was an excellent communicator, and he elaborately discussed all the specific aspects of his doubt. At the end of the speech, he will raise again the question, the first question itself. So it repeats. And I have thought of myself in the place of Sri Krishna. I am quite sure that I would be put in jail for committing a crime under the section 302, because it is such an intolerable. But he was able to communicate to that student. How is it possible to communicate? The number one aspect of communication is that communication is a contextual activity. A teacher must be able to communicate his lofty ideas and ideals to the students in the context of the student. See, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has used the images, metaphors, and all other poetic techniques related to the war. Everything was related to the war. Why? Because his student was a soldier. He was fully familiar with war, the science and the technology of war. So, he should be taught in the context in which he was destined to live. That's why Sri Krishna used all the metaphors and images and other poetic techniques to communicate his lofty idea, especially of Advaita system, to a soldier student. This is an important aspect. So if you want to communicate, you should be ready to communicate those lofty ideas, not within the frames of your own knowledge, your own ability, but within the frames of the student. That does not mean that you are coming down to the students. No, you are going up to the context of the student. Don't think that I have to come down to the level of the student to communicate things properly. It is absolutely meaningless. But you are going up to the level of the student when you communicate. So you have to use the language tools that is being used by the students. Yesterday, or day before yesterday, the Home Minister has made a very controversial statement that I am expecting of a future in which the students will say that they are ashamed of getting trained in English to express themselves. Home Minister said. And he was severely criticized. Now, what he said is that a person can express himself to the maximum only in his mother tongue. The mother tongue does not mean Malayalam is my mother tongue. No. Mother tongue means the contextual language. That is what is meant by mother tongue. The contextual language of the student is the mother tongue of the student. And the Malayalam, there is only one Malayalam. There are too many Malayalams. If you travel from Trivandrum to Kasaragod, you won't be able to understand even the terminology they use, the way they express things properly. The word meaning itself will be changed. Here in Kochi, Nammal means we. But in Trichur, Nammal means you. This is what sort of difference it is. After my marriage, I visited one of the relatives of my wife. Then a stranger was there along with her relative. Then he asked me, this is Nambuda Bharya. Then I said, no, 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 it is my wife, not yours. How can it be? Because they speak like that. Nambuda Bharya means it's your wife. But in Kochi, Nambuda Bharya means we both are responsible. How can it be accepted? But it is Malayalam. We think that there is only one Malayalam. No, there are too many Malayalams. And it will be changing in tune with the context in which a person is born and brought up. So what I am telling is that mother tongue is not an abstract language, but it is a concrete form of expressions. And that concrete form of expression is the best medium to communicate. If you want to communicate anything properly to a group, better you follow that concrete medium. And another brilliant example is Mahatma Gandhi. When the reporter of London Times interviewed him, a lady reporter asked, Mr. Gandhi, why should you use Rama instead of God? Why can't you use God? If you use God, it would be a very universal statement and everyone in the world must be able to understand God. Then he said, your second contention is absolutely wrong because it is not proper, but everyone would be able to understand the meaning of the God. The Europeans must be able to understand the meaning. But to my people, to whom I am communicating, if I am speaking them in terms of God, they won't be able to understand anything. But if I am referring Rama, they must be able to understand everything because Rama is their contextual form of expression and experience of God. This is the contextual language. That's why Mahatma Gandhi used that language. That is the gift of a great master to get it tuned with his students and get tuned with the concrete language form in which he is able to communicate his lofty ideas to the students. And there is another example, Jesus. I think that he also is an internationally renowned communicator. I am not referring to teachers. Not Radhakrishnan, I don't mean K.S. Radhakrishnan, but S. Radhakrishnan. He is not the best example for a teacher, but if you want to get the best examples for teachers, you go through Bhagavad Gita. Then you will get the best example, because Sri Krishna is the best example of a teacher. And then you go to Mahatma Gandhi, because he communicated the rural rustic people, and most of them were illiterate. But he could communicate the idea of ahimsa to those section of people because he knew the language in which he had to speak. So that's the best example. Another example is Jesus. The fisher folk approached him and asked him, Master, tell us what is meant by heaven. Because he was always offering them that I shall make you the honors of the heaven. You will get a place in heaven. Master, tell us what is meant by heaven. The question had been asked by the illiterate fisher folk. Immediately he answered, it is like a net that includes all fish. A net that includes all fish. I imagined myself on his place many times. If an unfortunate student in my class, when all the stars stood against him in his horoscope, he would have asked a question, Sir, please tell me what is meant by the philosophy of all-inclusiveness. Then I would be bombarding him with all technical terms, and that would be the end of asking questions, not in my class alone, but throughout his life. He will stop asking questions because He got a bombardment of technical terms when he asked a very simple question, Master, tell me what is meant by the philosophy of all inclusiveness. But Jesus could communicate the philosophy of all inclusiveness to his group, the illiterate fishermen. And that illiterate fisherman must be able to understand things properly. I have seen the same capacity in Amma. While I was the vice chancellor, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Amma when we were planting trees there after the tsunami. I also joined her in that process. Then after that, she had been given the darshan. Then a very pertinent question was asked against her by one of the devotees that, Amma, why should you say that you should go to temple? If God is everywhere, if God is in a piece of dust, why should you insist that I should go to temple? A very intelligent question, I think so. Even now, it is highly relevant. I was really looking at her. What would be her reaction? Immediately, Amma said that, oh, Mone, there are fish living in the sea, however small they are, they must be able to get oxygen, food, and everything from the seawater. If you keep an aquarium, and if there are fish in that aquarium, then you have to give it oxygen and food. If you are able to experience the presence of God in a piece of dust, you need not go. How beautiful it is. This is what is meant by communication. How beautiful it is. See, this is if a piece of dust stands in the place of God and if he experiences the Almighty God, the God in him and in the universe alike, and non-dual experience, then he need not go to any temple. He need not go to anywhere. He can lead a very peaceful life as his own, in his own manner and in his own way. But if not, you are in need of everything. Then I think that he might have got a chance to look into his own life and to fix his position. So a teacher is a communicator. Communicate what? That is the question. And there are two types of teaching: the administrative mode and the leadership mode. What is meant by the administrative mode? A good administrator always follow a set of rules framed by someone else. His duty is to observe the procedure formalities, and he has no right to go beyond the limit of the procedure formalities. So all civil servants are expected to follow within the frames of the rules and regulations formulated by someone else, and they are expected to within the frame of rules and regulations. So he is an administrator. And fortunately or unfortunately, most of the members of the teaching faculty follow the administrative method of teaching. The administrative method of teaching says that the teaching materials has already been created by someone else and it has been fixed like this. Then you have to follow this and these aspects, and then you will follow all the procedure formalities. But there is another mode of teaching also. That is the leadership mode. Who is a leader? A leader is one who has to explore his own ways. He must be able to foresee the end towards which he has to go, and he must be able to take his men with him to that destination. He never goes alone, but he goes with his own men to that destination. Who is a leader? And a good teacher is one who leads the student to the destined end towards which they are getting directed. Take for the example, see, I had the opportunity to interview more than 1,000 teachers, cutting across all the faculties, medical science, engineering, English, and all the subjects. Except my subject philosophy, I had the opportunity to interview all candidates representing the various subjects. Then I used to ask the very simple question: what are you going to give your students? See, you should be there. And you have to give something to your students. If you are not able to give something to your students, then immediately you would be rejected by your students. A student discovers his teacher, and the process of discovery happens when he or she is able to get something from you. What is that thing which you are going to give your students? Then everyone used to give me a very fantastic answer that they are with a bundle of knowledge and information. They are ready to go there and deliver the same to them. But I said nothing to them, but I know how such students, how such teachers would behave inside the classroom. But what really is the teacher? The role of the teacher is to infuse self-confidence among his students. Again, let me go back to the example of Sri Krishna. Sri Arjuna was virtually, he refused, dejected the very idea of entering into a war with his fellow men because he was doubtful of the result of the war. A doubting Thomas, he cannot do anything. Samshayatma vinashyati. He is a doubting Thomas, he cannot do anything. But Sri Krishna could make him believe that he would be able to get a victory in a war. This is what is meant by what? The communication. And this is what is meant by the self-confidence. If you are able to infuse self-confidence among your students, then he would do whatever he wants to do by himself. He would never be in need of your help. And the teacher gets the reward inside the classroom. You can see the shining eyes when something is being communicated to him or her, and if you are able to infuse self-confidence among the students, then his face would be shining, his eyes would be shining. That is the best reward that can be expected by a teacher. Once you have experienced that one, I am quite sure that you would never leave teaching. That is the highest experience in teaching. It is not that you must be able to say that this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. Akbar is a great king, Akbar is a great king, something like mugging up the process. No. It is not the by-hearting process. It is the process in which you direct the horse to the riverside and make the horse to drink from the river towards which it has been directed by you. This is what is meant by communication. I think that I am clear now. This is what is meant by communication. So communication infuses self-confidence among the students. If you are able to infuse self-confidence among the students, whatever be the nature of the subject which you are destined to teach, the student would be happy to learn it by themselves, because they would know that it is something which could be understood by them. That is the moment in the life of the teacher that makes the teacher as well as the student great. So teaching becomes great only when you are able to communicate things properly. And that communication aspect, then you should be a leader. Leader means you should be able to generate your own path to the end towards which your men have been directed. You are like a commander-in-chief. You move with your men to the battlefield and you make them to get a victory in that battlefield. That is what is meant by communication. Communication is a great topic. And if you are a poor communicator, whatever be the amount of books you have read, whatever be the weight of the knowledge you possess in your head, there is no use of it. There is no use of it. You will be tuttering and muttering and you will be saying this and that, and you will be talking over the head of your students. And the students naturally will get afraid of you that he is coming the next 1 hour. Oh my God, save us. That would be their prayer. Since it is, I think that it is exclusively a communion of teachers. Am I correct? So I can be more free. This is what happens. So it is within this context that we have to think of the new role of the teachers. See, you cannot surprise the students by giving new information because they are better informed than you. A bundle of information remains always at the fingertip of every student. And unfortunately, that equipment also is them. So if you say something, the moment they will ask their AI teacher, what is it? The AI teacher is eagerly waiting for such a question, and that teacher gives all the relevant information to them. So you cannot surprise them with information. You leave the information. But one thing that can be given by the teacher and the teacher alone, that is to infuse self-confidence among his students. And the moment he or she gets infused with that self-confidence, then she will say that, yes, I can march to the end. This can be given only by a teacher. No AI can give it. See, if you want, see, another example is that, who is the better? The better English has been always pronounced by the newsreaders in the news channels. In the beginning, there was one Ashok Tandon, and I tried my level best throughout my life to know what he was really speaking, but unfortunately I could not follow what he spoke, because this is what happens in the 20th century, and we don't be able to understand it. The teachers need not be the great masters of the pronunciation of that language in which they teach. That's a different matter. And if a good teacher is one who speaks good English, better make the newsreaders as the teachers. Definitely they are using better English, I think so. The pronunciation is good. But I don't think that is there anything serious in the act of pronunciation. I had the experience to interact with Mr. Anandamurthy, who was one of the great professors of English, not unlike the professors here in India and in Kerala, where after teaching 27 years to at the postgraduate level, a professor of English without any hesitation and shame expressed that wherever I go, I keep my house in my head, forgetting the very fact that she does not know the difference between home and house. Nobody can keep a house in her head. You can keep a home in your head wherever you go, but you cannot keep a house in your head. And unfortunately, she defended it that that use is grammatically correct. Then I was really afraid of the amount of wisdom she had been given to her students. She had been teaching English language at postgraduate level for 27 years. Forget it. But she also can be a very good teacher. Despite being her command over that language, if she was able to communicate things properly, then she might have been a good teacher. That's a different thing. What I am telling is that teaching is never meant the command of the teacher on that language alone. That's a secondary aspect. It's only a secondary aspect. In music, the quality of sound is only a secondary aspect. The real talent lies in the ability of the musician to get it tuned. That tuning process is there. And after the tuning, you are using the sound to express it. That sound may be changing, but the tune will remain forever. So I don't say that you should speak English or any language as it has been spoken by the experts in that language process, but you must be able to communicate the crux of your thought and experience. That is the thing. So, teacher, Shivan, the place of the teacher cannot be replaced by an AI equipment. I have no doubt about it. A teacher should be there. Because AI is giving something different. It's okay. It can give information. Yes, that's okay. At the tip of your hand, at the tip of your finger, you must be able to get information. But information is not knowledge. Knowledge is something different from information. See, there is a very great poet in English, that is T.S. Eliot, a Nobel laureate, and I do consider him the one of the greatest poets of English tradition, the author of Wasteland, Forkert, Hollow Men, Proof for His Love, etc., etc. And in Forkert, I think so, he asks a very simple question to the 20th century human beings. That question is essentially related to the essence of teaching. That's why let me quote him. Where is the life that is lost in living? Where is the life that is lost in living? Where is the wisdom that is lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge that is lost in information? The cycles of 20th century civilization brings us farther from heaven and farther to dust. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. Whimper is the suppressed cry. Nobody can hear the sound of the cry because it remains in a vibrant form inside the mind of the human being. And so silent death of the universe has been predicted by that great poet. And he begins his poetry, his piece of poem, with the question, where is the life that is lost in the living? We are losing the life in the process of the living. We are making adjustments. And there is a new philosophy that life is for adjustments. So you please make adjustments with everything and everyone. Be accommodative. You are losing yourself in the process of that getting accommodated with everything. You see, nothing is foreign to you or alien to you. And you will be very happy to know that, okay, let that also with me. So we are losing it. And where is the wisdom that is that is lost in knowledge? Wisdom is the all-encompassing, comprehensive system of knowledge. Wisdom has often been equated to philosophy. Philosophical wisdom and scientific knowledge. There are different systems of knowledge within the frame of the wisdom. Please don't. Let it be so. Let it be a background music. So, what I am telling is that there are differences. Physical science, social science, and among these physical and social sciences, there are different branches of sciences, and all these are different systems of knowledge, fragmented. And again, this fragmented knowledge can be dissolved in information. See the process of disintegration. The 20th century man, especially in the European context, who have been disintegrated from the totality of life to the fragments of life, who has lost his faith in the wisdom, and who resorted his shelter in knowledge, and then he leaves that systems of knowledge and goes to another level which he wanted to celebrate information. And friends, today we are celebrating information. This is how the world ends. How farther from heaven and farther to dust. This has got a biblical reference because the book of Genesis says that man is created in the image of God from dust. Again the Bible, that's why the Bible says that I shall show fear in a handful of dust. Show fear in a handful of dust. Because, and fear means death. Death is in a piece of dust. And from that death, according to their belief, the God generated him to life. That's why here from a piece of dust, man is created from dust in the image of God, and he has been elevated to heaven by God. What Eliot says is that he is getting disintegrated to the pieces of dust. This is the process that is being done by the AI and others because we are celebrating the festivals of information. But the festivals of information is unable to give you the systems of knowledge. And even if you are able to get the systems of knowledge, such systems of knowledge are unable to give you the philosophical wisdom that encompasses everything. So the central unity That is to be understood. The unification forces and the unification forces of this universe can be given only by a teacher inside the classroom. That is his or her role inside the classroom. You have no other go. You have no other go but to depend on a person who is there and the physical presence is there, and he helps you to infuse self-confidence, and that self-confidence makes the whole systems of knowledge into an integrated whole in the context of your experience. This is the higher mode of communication. I think now I am clear. So you have no other way. So you have to depend on the teachers for this purpose. But the teachers has to attain that status also. That's why it is said that you have to generate knowledge. A teacher is one who is engaged in the knowledge generation process. And if you are not able to engage yourself in the knowledge generation process, I am quite sure that you cannot make an effective presence inside the classroom. That's very important. That's very important. So within this context, this is the context, let us think of the new education policy. It intends to shift 3 paradigms. Number 1, it's a paradigm shift from Eurocentrism to India-centrism. That is the number 1. Eurocentrism. It's a very, very dangerous concept. The term Eurocentrism has been defined by Lord Macaulay when he introduced the English education in India. The project was submitted to him and he wrote the preface to that project. In that preface he wrote, quote, India has nothing. India has no religion, no philosophy, no art, no literature, no science, no social science, no history, no music, no painting, etc., etc. So there is nothing that can be termed as worth in the Indian culture. Then what should be done by the British? He says, it is the duty of unique epistemological systems, which is unthinkable to the British and the Eurocentric people. The greatest form of knowledge as it has been entertained by the Europeans is not philosophy, not literature, but they are proud of their science and technology. They believe that they can make scientific discoveries and through a logical process. They think that they have got a logical system. And that logical system is capable to make discoveries. For example, after seeing the fall of an apple or many apples, I don't know how many apples he had seen, but immediately he jumped into a conclusion that there is the law of gravitational force. And the law of gravitational force has been accepted by all. But what is the logic or the epistemological tool that helped Newton to discover the law of gravitation? Is it the falling apple? No, law of gravitation is applicable to all objects within the space and time. if it is applicable to all manifestations existing in space and time, then only after observation of all the manifestations you must be able to make a statement that all bodies gravitate. Am I correct? But have you ever seen it? No. Hence, there is a great professor of philosophy of science, Karl Popper, who was the guru of the notorious George Soros for his degree and PG in London School of Economics. And the aim of George Soros was to become a professor of philosophy like his master Karl Popper. But unfortunately, he could not get sufficient academic merit to become the teacher of that great institution. Then he turned his genius to the evil side, and there is only one, according, in my opinion, not according to me, I need not accord with me, in my opinion, I think that George Soros is the only one disciple of Karl Popper. And Karl Popper wrote a masterpiece, Logic of Scientific Discovery. That is the title of that book. Then he wrote Open Society and Its Enemies. The third one, Conjectures and Refutations. And his disciple was influenced by conjectures and reputations. There are differences between a narrative and a conjecture. A conjecture is a statement which has no factual basis, but just by using the by the play of words, you can make statements, and that statements may get acceptance for the time being, and after that you can leave it, you can form another thing. This is how that George Soros could make millions and millions of money by breaking the well-established business establishments of the Western and Indian traditions even. That leave it there. I just said about Karl Popper. And in that Logic of Scientific Discovery, he said that there is no logic for scientific discovery, but there can be logic for scientific practice. Because he said that there is no empirical basis for generalizations. We are in need of generalizations in science, otherwise you cannot function. For example, A is mortal, B is mortal, C is mortal. Okay? Immediately you jump to the conclusion that all men are mortal. Is it practically possible to make such a conclusion after observing the death of all? If you want to make a statement after observing the death of all, the person who makes the statement also has to die. That means there would be no one to make such a statement. But we are making it. What I am telling is that the Western mode of epistemology is incapable to give you a logically satisfactory answer to the relation between all and one. That is essential for the scientific discovery and scientific practice. So my point is very simple. The well-acclaimed system of knowledge which has been produced by the Eurocentric tools is science, and even that science is not logically consistent. That is the point. So we have to think of a different mode of tools to make knowledge. And we have got fortunately a system. That system says that it is incorrect to say that knowledge arises after experience. or knowledge is within you before experience, in both the cases you are bifurcating experience from knowledge. Am I correct? First experience, then knowledge. After empiricism. First experience, then comes knowledge. If there is no experience, there is no knowledge. And the opposite theory says that no, man is filled with all types of knowledge at the time of birth itself because knowledge is innate. But there is a difference between experience and knowledge. But India has produced a very unique system of epistemology which says that knowledge is experience. It cannot be bifurcated. Hence, there is a second paradigm shift in the new education policy which says that the mode of teaching should never be either teacher-centric or student-centric or text-centric, but it should be a context-centric activity. See, we have been following the teacher-centric mode of teaching. Good old times. The teacher was the master. He was the abode of every form of knowledge, wisdom and information. And whatever be his utterances, all such utterances were taken for granted by students. But that is not possible now. Nobody is concerned of the teacher-centric activity at present. Then immediately we turned our attention to the student-centric activity and the teacher remained as a felicitator. The very fortunate group of teachers who came after our tenure, so they were very lucky group because they could not do anything for the students. Being a facilitator, they can simply stand and look at them. Are you doing it? Are you doing it? Are you doing it? And the whole process of learning is vested with the student. Then comes the third concept. The teaching should neither be the student-centric nor the teacher-centric, but it should be the text-centric. What is primacy is the text. But there is one task in that concept, that if text is the primary source of getting knowledge and a teacher should follow the text-centric mode of teaching, if that text never satisfies your logic and experience, are you expected to teach it the same to your students? If you give primacy to the text, that experience, then you have to admit that sugar is not sweet, but it generates sour on your tongue. Can you agree with it? As the good old Nambiar has once said that, Kunchan Nambiar once said that everyone was the king of Ambalapuzha decided to test the loyalty and originality of his courtiers. So after serving Panchasara Paisam, means the sugar mixed pie, I don't know the English of paisam, because there is no word substitute for pudding. Is not paisam. Pudding is something different from paisam. Anyway, there is something named Panchasara Paisam. It is sweet to the core. But after tasting it, the king said that, no, it is bitter. Then everyone said that, oh, it is bitter, it is bitter, it is bitter. The text is that Panchasara Paisam generates bitter experience. But Kunjan Nambiar was drinking it. Then the king asked him, Mr. Nambiar, why you are so why you are that appreciating that much the bitter Panchasara Paisam? Then he said that I like the bitterness of Panchasara Paisam than anything else, because that was his experience. If you give too much importance to the text And if the text is deviated from your experience, and if you are unable to satisfy the logical content of that text, then no doubt that text-centric education never gives you the expected results. That's why the second paradigm shift that is within the frames of the new education policy, which says that the teaching should be context-centric. I told you about communication earlier. The context-centric mode of teaching. So if we are able to cope up with the context mode of teaching, then no doubt that the presence of teacher should be an essential aspect in the classroom. What I told you is that the presence of the teacher is essential, and we can teach in tune with the education policy accepted by the governments from time to time. We cannot go and teach without having any legal frames, because teaching is highly a legal activity. So we have to follow the legal systems, and the new education policy gives importance to the context-centric education. And in that context-centric education, the teacher should be a communicator, and he has to make effective communications. And there is only one teacher who can make effective communications.